Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. There's nothing like being one of the very last sessions on the last day of a 3-day conference. So thank you for being here, for staying awake. I'm going to do a lot of crowd participation just to make sure that you're with me here today. So first, show of hands, who has a podcast already? It's launched, it's going. Amazing. Keep your hands up if the only responsibility you have for that podcast is just to record. Someone else books your guests, puts a date on your calendar to record. You just show up, hit the record button, say a few funny things, and then magically it goes out to the universe. Someone else posts on social media. Anyone? No? I know that's a dream. But for most of us, we are wearing many hats. We're wearing all of the hats. So at minimum, you might be the on-air talent or host. You likely are the creative director. And what I mean by that is you are coming up with the episode ideas, the episode titles, figuring out what guests you're going to have on the show, coming up with ways to promote your podcast, advertise your podcast, get your community involved. All of that kind of falls into that creative director role. You also might be the talent booker. If you have hosts on your show, you're figuring out who might be a good guest to have on your podcast, doing research about them, figuring out a time that works with their schedule, getting it booked. That can be a lot of back and forth. You might be the editor or sound engineer, which I think just sounds a little fancier. You also might be the social media manager. Is this resonating with anyone who's wearing all of these many hats? Okay, and if you've been here for the last couple of days, you've probably written down in your notebook some other roles that you want to start doing, right? You might now decide you need to be a social search engine optimization expert. I heard the other day PSO, podcast search optimization, which I hadn't heard before. So that might be a new role that you're going to take when you go home. And if you're not yet doing video, you might now also need to add the role of video producer. It is a lot. And what I want to talk about today is how you can organize all of those roles to make your process easier, streamlined, so you're not having to think so much about the process. So with all of these hats that you guys are wearing, we say that we're a podcaster. I do all of these things. That means I'm a podcaster. I like to think of it as a project manager. Not only does it sound a little fancier, but that's truly what you're doing. You are managing this project. The project just happens to be a podcast. So when we think about it in that framing, it does make sense that you need a system. You need a process. Anyone can podcast and put out an episode or 2 episodes or 5 episodes, but it's a different skill set to manage a project, which is what you guys are doing. So if we can take that framing of your job and your title and all of these things you do, I think it makes sense of why we need a system. So that's what we're going to go through today. I'm going to show you not only why you need a system to help you stay organized, but what that system should include. And then I'm going to give you some very practical things you can do today to get started, to get yourself organized, things you can do on your plane ride home to get you set up for success. So who am I? My name is Kimberly. I am a digital content producer at a company called 37 Signals. You might know us as the company that makes project management software like Basecamp. We also make an email platform called Hey. You are looking surprised. Not a lot of people know the name 37 Signals unless you're in the geeky software world. But what I do is I create content to help our users understand how to manage their projects, how to make things more efficient and more streamlined. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. In addition to that, I host our company podcast called Rework. It is with our company founders, Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen. If you are a software geek, you probably know those names. If not, you might know their names if you're a small business or entrepreneur fan. That's how I knew their names. They are writers, co-authors of a couple of books, most notably Rework. They also have a book called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work and a book called Remote Office Not Required. So our company philosophy is very much about calm workplaces. They've literally written books about it. So I'm going to take some of that and explain to you guys how you can implement that into what you're doing here. Rework is not the only podcast that I've been a part of. I actually started podcasting in 2016. Prior to working for 37 Signals, I was an entrepreneur. I had my own business in the event industry. And as you can imagine, putting on an event, a conference like this, is just managing a big project. That's what it is, and that's what you guys are doing as well. So in 2016, I had a wedding industry podcast with a co-host. We sunset that after 241 episodes, I believe. So I know exactly how much work it takes to get an episode out week after week after week. So we'll be going into some of that. And then lastly, it's Kimberly, not Kim. If you were to yell Kim across this room, I wouldn't answer because I'd think you were talking about someone else. So just for future reference. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what it looks like when project management is chaos. And a lot of that translates into podcast chaos. In project management, if you're building a house, you're putting together a convention, anything that has deadlines and tasks and an order to do things, chaos often means missed deadlines. For podcasting, that means missed episodes. It could be as simple as we planned to put out the episode on Tuesday and then we just didn't have time and now it's going out on Wednesday. Or maybe we've skipped weeks altogether unexpectedly. It is hard. Things happen. Life happens, obviously, but having a system and a plan can help so that you're not missing deadlines or missing episodes. Forgotten tasks. We often hear in project management things slipping through the cracks, if you've heard that in your regular life. Having a system, having everything documented will help make sure things don't slip through the cracks. From podcasting, it can be as simple as we typically post on social media every episode, and we forgot to get the headshot for the guests, so we didn't do it this week. Those small little details can end up with forgotten tasks. Chaos can also mean feeling reactive versus proactive. I know in my business world, one of the feelings I hate the most is feeling like I'm behind the 8 ball. I'm not able to get ahead of something. I'm always feeling like I'm having to catch up. I'm sure in podcasting it can feel the same way. You're like, I'm just trying to stay afloat instead of being on top of things. That can feel a little chaotic. Ever had so much on your plate you just don't even know where to start? Like, I just don't even know where to start. That is a feeling of chaos we want to eliminate. Stress and overwhelm obviously happens. And then last but not least, all of these things can lead to burnout. In life, that happens. In podcasting, that just means you stop podcasting. And we've seen it over and over and over again. There are some statistics about most podcasts ends after 7 episodes. I don't know if that's a documented statistic. I've heard it many times. But it's all typically because it becomes overwhelming. People get burned out, and it is more work than people think. So we're going to talk through how we can make it a little more seamless for you guys. A repeatable process is really managing a project. It helps maintain consistency. We've heard it the last few days. I'm sure you've heard it many times. Podcasting success is all about being consistent and giving your listeners an expectation of what they can expect, when they can expect episodes to go out. They're not left wondering, are they still doing this? What's going on? It's all about being consistent, and having a repeatable process will help with that. You'll never have to wonder what is supposed to happen next. That feeling of like, I just don't even know where to start, when you have a process that immediately goes away. And it allows you to focus on creative work. I'm willing to bet nobody in this room decided to start a podcast because they love managing tasks, right? That's probably not why you started. You had a message you wanted to get out. You had an idea that you wanted to voice. You wanted to bring exposure to a topic, or you wanted to bring people together. I guarantee it wasn't just to manage tasks, but now here we are managing tasks. So let's think of ways that we can make it easier. We're going to go through that. And then also, if you are a team of one, as many of us are in all of this and doing it all ourselves, even if you are a team of one, having a process is important, because one day you might be able to offload some of those tasks. And if you've ever in any job tried to train someone without having a process first, it's almost impossible. If you have a process to get started, When you can offload some of those responsibilities, it's going to be so easy to do. It'll be so seamless. You can bring someone else into your process that already exists. So we're going to do this in 5 steps. 5 steps to podcast calm. The first one is the most important, which is to brain dump all your responsibilities. You can do this on the plane when you go home. No task is too small. It is taking everything that's in your head that you do for every single episode and putting it on paper. At this point in the process, I don't want you to think about the order that you do it, what has to come first, who's going to do it. Just get it out of your head and onto paper. No task is too small. They often say if you can't sleep, I say they, I don't know who they is, psychologists, I don't know. If you can't sleep, to write down things in a journal before you go to bed, like get it out of your head so you're not having to think about it. That is what this process is. Every task that you can think of. I'm going to throw up some examples here. I'm sure you guys have more. If anyone has any you want to jump up and tell me, let me know. Choosing topics, researching guests, reaching out to guests, scheduling guests. If you're recording remotely, which I do for rework, it's setting up a recording link and then sending out that recording link. My previous podcast, we had guests who we would ask them to sign a guest agreement. So something as simple as, we're going to use your voice and likeness, and we expect you to promote this on your social media. Sending out that guest agreement is a task on your list. Getting it back from the guest is a task on your list. Countersigning that agreement is a task on your list. So think micro level. There is no task that is too small. Write it all down. Sending an email reminder to guests before they come on, getting headshots, bios, social media handles, making graphics for the episode, recording the episode, editing if you're doing that or someone else is doing it, audio, video, reviewing and editing transcripts. So I know a lot of us are using AI for a lot of this, which is awesome, but we still are reviewing it. Yeah, so it's still a task on the list. Writing show notes, even if AI is helping you, reviewing those show notes. My podcast at 37 Signals, the co-founder, David Heinemeier Hansen, no matter how many times AI tries, they cannot spell that name right. So every single time I have to review it. David Heinemeier Hansen, correct the spelling. That would be on my to-do list. Scheduling the episode with your hosting company, we use Buzzsprout, whoever you might use. That is a task on your to-do list. If you're doing video, YouTube thumbnails, making video clips, posting to YouTube, posting on social media. I always like to send, when we had guests on my previous podcast, a simple thank you to them after the episode. That is a task on the list. Anyone else have tasks? These are my brain dump. Any others that come to mind? Yes. Sorry, Steve. Impromptu question.
I record with a co-host, and I need to make sure I have water. More than once, I've made sure that it was not ice water because the sound of the ice ruins the recording.
Love it.
Tiny thing I have to do
Love
every
it.
single time now.
Love that. Anyone else? Okay, so that is your homework assignment. Step 1, brain dump all of those things. And like I said, it doesn't have to be in any sort of order. It can be in your notebook that you're writing on here. We're just going to get it out of our head and get it onto paper. After that, we are going to choose a platform to manage your tasks. So obviously, I work for Basecamp. Trello is similar project management software. Asana, ClickUp, Monday. There's some kind of project management tool for everyone. Almost all of these offer some sort of free trial or even a free plan. Check them out, see what works for you and for how your brain works. But the important thing is to get it off of that piece of paper and into something electronic. And the reason I say that is even if you're a team of one, if an emergency happens, it's so much easier to send somebody a link to a website to see where things are in a process than like go to my house and there's a notebook where I have some to-dos written down on a sticky note. Exactly. So first we're going to write it on paper, then we're going to put it into some sort of system. when you're choosing a platform, almost all of these are going to have this, but I think it is important that you think about communication and collaboration. So using whatever platform you choose as the main single source of truth for what you're doing with your podcast. This can be something that you're sharing with your editor. I obviously use Basecamp, and the person who edits my podcast is linked into my Basecamp account, so they see every episode that's supposed to happen in order, and I'll show you guys that in a bit. Templates. So every episode, you're doing these same 82 tasks. You should not have to type out that to-do list 82 times. It is a simple template. We're going to put it in order, repeat it every single time, checking things off the list. I mentioned to-dos. I prefer for podcasting to manage my process with a Kanban board. So if you don't know what that is, I'm going to show it to you on this next slide. To-dos to me, from a project management standpoint, it's either done or it's not done. And there are tasks in podcasting that are either done or not done. But each episode typically is going through phases of a process. There's the pre-scheduling phase, getting hosts, getting things scheduled. It's an idea phase that's then moving to we're recording it phase, to an editing phase, to a promotion phase before it's done. Yes? So a Kanban board lets you visually see all of the stages of that process for each episode. And it lets you see how many episodes are in which stage at any given time. So you can see in one quick snapshot where things stand. I think that's a great way to manage this process is through a Kanban board. Basecamp has it, we call it card table. Asana, Trello also have similar Kanban boards for managing tasks. Also a schedule, you're gonna want to make sure you are releasing on certain dates. So linking that project to specific dates in your system is going to be helpful. And then I also say making sure it is a mobile-friendly experience. I'm on my phone constantly in my project management app. All of these have some sort of mobile component. I just say experiment and see what is the best fit for you. My brain works one way. A different piece of software could work better for you for how your brain works, but check them out and see what works best for you. And then after we've brain dumped, after we've picked where we're going to put things, we're going to organize our workflow. So I said in the first step, it doesn't matter the order, just get it out of your head. Well, now we're going to think about the order. Because just like when you build a house, you have to put the foundation down before you can put the walls in. With a podcast, you have to choose the topic before you can choose the guest. You have to edit it before you promote it. So thinking through what is that order is going to be important. And again, this is a repeatable process. You build it once, you do it every single week or every single month or however often you are podcasting. I'm going to show you my workflow. This is my, not yet. I'm going to first tell you, think about the order of tasks and then the buckets or stage that things are going in. This is my workflow. So this is my Basecamp project. There's something called a card table. Again, Trello, Asana, other pieces of software have something similar. But you can see there are different columns. So up here at the top, you'll see podcast episode ideas. This is a place where I can just throw ideas as they come to me. My entire company has access to this project as well, so other people can add episode ideas as well. Those just go up there. We can decide if we're going to move them forward or not. So I think it is also good to have a place that you just are throwing ideas when you have them. You know, sometimes you have an idea and you're in the middle of a restaurant. There's a place for it to go, not just on a cocktail napkin. So that's where those go, is at this podcast episode ideas. And then at the bottom, you can see where it's color-coded. I have scheduled. That's a little empty right now. Recorded, editing, approved, ready to post, and then on the far right side, it says done. So each of these cards is a podcast episode. Once I take it from the episode ideas, I'll move it to scheduled. We have a date on the calendar that we're actually going to record it. And then we move it to recorded once it's done, that I know it's in the pool, ready to be edited. My editor then takes it when he's starting to edit and moves it to the next column, so I know it's where it is in the process. And then we might go back and forth a little bit on that editing. I might request changes. It kind of stays in that card. And then once I've approved it, it moves to that approved, ready to post. And then once it is up on YouTube, we've pushed it to Buzzsprout. It's on all of the networks. Then we move it to done. So a Kanban board like this, or in other software programs that allow this, let you see, okay, I have something recorded that's ready to be edited, something that's being edited, something that's ready to post. Actually, that approved, ready to post, I just posted that one yesterday. And gosh, nothing's scheduled, so I need to get on that. Seeing it visually, I think, is a lot easier and clearer to understand than just a whole bunch of to-dos on a checklist. Yeah, does that resonate with anyone? Makes sense? Perfect. I'm going to dig into one of these cards. It started with the blog. This is the podcast episode that will be going live next week on Wednesday. I also have to-dos within this card. So if you see there's steps. I have broken down some of the tasks on this card before this goes live. I've set deadlines for myself for each individual task. So it's a combination of each episode has to-dos, but then that card also has a progression. For me, this is how my brain works and helps me understand, like nothing's slipping through the cracks. I'm alerted when there's deadlines to things. I know where in the process something is, and I can check them off, as can other people on my team. I think that makes sense. Okay, so we've organized our workflow. Again, I can't speak more highly to a Kanban board. Step number 4 is to identify who is going to take on all of these roles. And for a lot of us, that's you. You might be doing all of these things. I don't know if anyone has read the book E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. It's a great small business book. In his book, he recommends, even if you are a team of one or a very small business, to create an org chart of what you want your future business to look like. And all of these roles that we talked about in the beginning, in an ideal world, who fills those? Right now, it's you. And it might be you and an editor, or you and a co-host. But taking all of those roles and creating an org chart to figure out who, in an ideal situation, what are those job titles that can fill those roles. That way, when it comes to the time that you've maybe built up your podcast that you can bring on a team, maybe it's a VA. Which of those roles do you want that VA to take on? Maybe they can take on all those admin tasks, all those pre-scheduling things, all of those, the creative, making a Canva image for your podcast. Maybe it's the promotion side, but dividing out those tasks and with roles will help once it comes time to actually distribute some of that work. And then last but not least, build habits around your system. So I like to think that when you make a template for anything, any kind of project management that you're doing, when you have a repeatable process, you have to be flexible enough to know that process might change. So you might need to refine what you're doing. And you can easily do that. You can update your template. I'm sure you didn't know from day 1 that you needed to remove ice from the water, but you did on day 10. And so on day 10, that task might have changed from just have water to water with no ice. Some habits that will set you up for success, setting deadlines. So each of those tasks, and on my Kanban board, I give myself deadlines. I get reminders about those deadlines. They're not arbitrary. Putting a date to something will help ensure that they get done. And then time blocking for me is also very helpful, figuring out when am I going to do these tasks. It's one thing to just have a task list, but then it's also like, well, when am I going to get them done? Seeing them on a Kanban style board also can help you block schedule. So for me, we record 2 podcasts at a time, which is why you can see those 2 episodes in flight. We record 2, but release 1. So typically I can get a little bit ahead of things if schedules work out. And so for me, that's time blocking. It's 1 sit-down session, 2 episodes, and then I can distribute those episodes over a couple of weeks. Again, refining your template, things are going to change. And then I would also say, review your situation occasionally. I think a lot of people stop podcasting because it gets overwhelming, but there's something between starting and stopping in the middle. And it could be just analyzing how things are going. Maybe that's quarterly. Maybe that's a quarterly meeting with your co-host or a quarterly meeting with yourself. Like, how are things going? Am I overwhelmed? Is this process working? What do I need to change? Do I need to put out an episode every 2 weeks instead of every week? It's okay to make changes in your process as you're going. You guys, that's all I have for you. 5 steps. homework for you on your way home. We have a couple of minutes for questions, if there are any. Yes.
Thank you. It's already making me calmer. So
Yes.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Question around file management and the integration with project management.
Yeah.
Because I've used Basecamp, and I never know whether I should just put all the episode files into Basecamp or still keep it in Google Drive. Like, it's a very tactical question, but
Yeah.
how do you handle the file management side with the project management side?
That's a great question. I'll tell you what I do. The one thing with Basecamp and with a lot of these tools is there's not necessarily a right and a wrong. There's many ways you can handle it. This is what I do. I have a Dropbox folder that I share with my editor that I have all of my raw files. So my raw audio, my raw video, all goes in the Dropbox folder. And then when he is editing, he's also dropping things back in that Dropbox folder. For me, I'm then posting final versions of everything back into Basecamp as like a long-term, the whole company has access to it. It's like, this is the final thing. Whereas my editor and I in Dropbox might have 8 versions of something that no one else really needs to see. That's how I handle it, is a combination of Basecamp for final things and Dropbox for my working files.
You mentioned a book for small business owners or solo content creators.
Yes, yes. It's called E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, which is wonderful. I also am going to pop up here Jason and David's books, which are also for small businesses. Rework, It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work, and Remote. Those are all by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen. But then E-Myth Revisited is also a wonderful small business book.
Sort of a software. First of all, this is amazing. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Kind of a software question. Does Basecamp automate into Google Calendar?
Say that, does it automatically put tasks into Google
The
Calendar?
tasks that are scheduled for a particular deadline, can you put those into Google Calendar?
Yes. So you can actually subscribe to your Basecamp calendar in Google. So, yep. So it's a one-way sync from Basecamp to Google or Basecamp to your Apple Calendar. That's what I do, is I use Apple Calendar for my things. But everything I'm putting in Basecamp then syncs to my personal calendar, but not the other way around. So if you put something on your Google Calendar, it won't show up in your Basecamp calendar. It's a one-way sync.
Hi, I was just looking for a little clarification on the board where you have, it looks like you have a card per episode.
Mm-hmm.
So you brain dumped all of those tasks that you have. And then do all of those tasks go onto an episode card, or do they change as you move them column to column?
That is a great question. Let me go to that slide and show you. So each of these cards is an episode, and then within each card, I have, to be honest, I don't have every single task, but in each card, there are high-level to-dos here that would be part of your brain dump. It sure does. Yep. So I might have 3 checks, and it could be in column 3, and then 5 checks moves it to column 6, if that makes sense. So it is both a to-do list and the moving through phases.
Hi, thank you so
Hi.
much, Kimberly. This is a comment, not a question. This was fabulous.
Oh, thank you for
Yeah,
doing that.
this was as organized as you are directing all of us to be. So I just want to thank you for it.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I appreciate that. Any other questions? I have 1 minute and 37 seconds.
Thank you. Following up on the last question, using Basecamp. So can I infer that you can open up Basecamp, and given that you've got these different cards for different episodes, then there'll be a task list that will automatically come up, and it'll say, here are all your tasks that are coming due for all these various different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you assign tasks to yourself, I'm mainly the one in this project, so I haven't assigned all of these to myself, but I would. If you assign these tasks to yourself, there is a dashboard that shows you everything with the deadline coming up. It'll show you deadlines that have passed. Anything that's assigned to you will show up on a report, if you will. Okay, I'm being told I have to leave. Thank you guys for coming. I hope the last few days have been super helpful. I'll be around if anyone else has any questions. Thanks.